Will animals go to heaven? Brilliant question. And it was in fact asked of me by one of my children, because the other week we had a beloved pet. Our family rabbit died somewhat younger than we'd hoped, and there was much upset, many tears from particularly the younger members of the household. One of my children asked me, "Daddy, will pets go to heaven?" And I remember when I was asked that, thinking and replying, actually, what a great question that is. Brilliant question. Well, immediately as I think about that, I'm fascinated by the fact that the Christian faith is incredibly positive about the natural world. So in the very first chapter of the first book of the Bible, Genesis, we read how God creates every aspect of nature. He creates the oceans and the mountains and the rivers. He creates plant life and ocean life and animal life. And after every act of creating, God declares it is good. So we know right at the beginning that God thinks the natural world is good. We go into the New Testament, and one of the most famous verses in the New Testament says, God so loved the world. I'm always struck reading that it doesn't say God loved humanity, which is clearly true. It goes wider than that. God loved everything that he created, loved the world. And then Jesus, by the way, gets super specific. Jesus says that God so cares for his creation, is so involved in watching over it and superintending it, that he knows, that God knows when even a sparrow falls from the sky. So you can't read the Bible without really grasping and understanding that God loves the world, the natural world he created, not just human beings, but animal life and plant life and nature too. That, by the way, is a massive contrast from atheism. Because in atheism, it's a troubling question to ask, what value does animal life have? You know, what value did our pet rabbit Snowball, who died, what value did he have? And the answer is, well, actually, none at all. Any individual animal is nothing more than a collection of atoms and particles, and we may have an emotional attachment, but it's just chemistry playing tricks on us. There is no instrumental value there at all. Nothing in nature is worth anything, and neither are we. What a grim view of reality, and the Bible stands light years away from that. Okay, so God loves animal life. Will animals go to heaven then, as my daughter asked me? Well, we also need to ask the question, what do we mean by heaven? Because sometimes we have a slight misunderstanding of heaven. When we hear the word heaven, we think about perhaps sitting on a cloud playing a harp with the angels for eternity, or we think about some great big party in the sky. Well, neither of those are the biblical image. In fact, the Bible, the language it prefers to use, far more than the word heaven, the Bible talks about the new heavens and the new earth. The great promise of the New Testament, resounding from almost every page, is that God is going to make all things new. That the cross and the resurrection of Jesus isn't just about putting right our individual relationship with God, but putting right creation on all that's gone wrong, and that God will restore everything into the way that it should be, and that every sad thing, every bad thing will become undone, ultimately in the new heavens and the new earth. So, will there be animals in that new heavens and that new earth? Absolutely, and the Bible's clear on that. In the Old Testament, there's the beautiful little image that's used several times of the lion lying down with the lamb. There'll be peace between animals that were formerly enemies. In the book of Revelation, the last book of the Bible, we read how every creature will worship God. I love the language of creature there. Not every human, every creature. It's far wider. And similar imagery about the whole of creation worshipping and celebrating who God is there in the Old Testament as well. And lastly, of course, I think the other big clue, there'll be animal life in the new heavens and the new earth, is to go back to Genesis. If the new heavens and the new earth is a restoration of how it should have been in the beginning, well, we know that God spoke over plant life and animal life. It is good. And I find it very hard to believe that that which God celebrated so clearly by declaring it good in the Old Testament, we totally missing in the new heavens and the new earth. So yes, I think I can say confidently and biblically there will absolutely be animals in heaven. Now, will there be individual animals in heaven? Will our pets that we have loved and that we've lost be there? I have to be very honest with you and say I don't know. Because the Bible wasn't written to address that question. The Bible wasn't written to address the question of to what extent can animals understand their creator, have any kind of relationship. I don't know. I don't know. I hope that because God has created a good world, and I think part of that good world is our ability to have that relationship with our animal cousins, I hope that maybe, but ultimately I don't know. But I hope, and I trust that the God who will ultimately work all things for good will work through the loss of our beloved pets as well. But one final thought. Have you ever wondered why it is that we love animals, especially animals that are of no instrumental use to us at all? So our pet rabbit, was instrumentally, objectively, no value to us at all. He did absolutely nothing. We were not raising him for the pot. He didn't clear up after himself. He just caused expense in the form of vet bills. He made mess and chaos, ate lots of hay and carrots, and did absolutely nothing. So on paper, no value to us at all whatsoever. Yet, he was a beloved member of our family. Why is it that we have this kind of relationship with animals? Well, I think there's some little shadow there, actually, of the bigger relationship of God with us. We're made in the image of God, and we reflect that in little ways. And I'm not saying that we as human beings are God's pets, but look at it this way. When God created us and invites us into a relationship with him, we can offer God nothing. There is nothing that you or I can do that can contribute anything to God. He is utterly infinite. He needs nothing from us whatsoever. Yet nevertheless, he gave us everything. He gave us life and joy and pleasure and relationships, and everything that we have is due to his gift to us. And of course, he gave us the biggest gift of all when he stepped into history in the person of Jesus and gave his very own life for us, not because he needed to or needed anything from us, but because he loved us unconditionally and wanted to do that for us. And so when we love our animals unconditionally, who can give us very little in return, I just sometimes like to think that's a very tiny reflection and a reminder of the God of the universe who has done infinitely more for us and to whom we owe everything. So let's be grateful to God for all good things, including our pets. Let's look forward to the promise of the new heavens and the new earth that's available for us there in the person of Jesus. But let's most importantly ask ourselves, have we put ourselves right with God through Jesus so that we can enjoy that future eternity with him and all that he has made?